You ever feel like the more effort you give, the faster they pull away? Like, you're texting first, apologizing for things you didn't even do, trying to be the good man. But somehow, you're still the one who ends up confused, ghosted, or left. They say, real men lead, but no one taught you what that actually looks like in a world that rewards silence until it doesn't. This video isn't about tricks or dating hacks or how to win her back. It's about the shift, the quiet shift inside a man, when he stops trying to earn respect and starts becoming the man who naturally commands it. And somewhere around minute 14, I'm going to show you how one subtle behavior, the kind you've probably overlooked for years, is either magnetizing women to you or repelling them without a word. But first, let me take you back to a Tuesday morning. I had just come out of a breakup that shattered me. Not because she left, but because of how I had bent over backwards the entire time, trying to be enough. I remember sitting in my car, replaying every text, every over-explained message, every time I bit my tongue to keep the peace, and I thought, when did I stop being a man and start becoming a performer? That moment broke something, but it also built something. If you've ever felt that, if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, I don't even recognize who I became for her, comment below. I've been there, because this isn't just a video, it's a mirror, and what you'll see here might just give you your power back. They don't take it from you. You give it away, silently, slowly, until one day you realize you don't even recognize how you got here. See, most men think they lose power when they get rejected, or when a woman leaves them, or when they get ghosted after showing vulnerability. But that's not when it starts. It starts way before that, in small moments. When you over-explain something she didn't ask about. When you chase her mood instead of observing her silence. When you smile to avoid conflict instead of standing still in tension. And the problem? No one tells you these are the signs that your power is leaking. Because the world tells men to try harder, to provide more, to impress more, to show more love. But here's the truth, and it might sting if you have to perform to be chosen. You weren't chosen. You were hired for a temporary role, and the contract ends the moment she loses emotional interest. Let me put it like this. Imagine you walk into a room. Two men stand there. One is laughing loudly, shaking hands, telling stories, complimenting everyone. The other is leaning quietly against the wall, observing, calm. Which one are people watching more closely? Which one do they wonder about? Exactly. Presence isn't loud, power doesn't compete, and dominance, true dominance, never begs for approval. Here's the real reason most men lose power. They tie their worth to how much they can give, not how much they can hold. Hold stillness, hold silence, hold your center. Because a man who can hold himself becomes a man no one dares to test casually. So next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Ask, am I giving or am I performing? One builds intimacy, the other builds dependency. One builds attraction, the other builds obligation. This shift starts small, but over time, it creates a man who can't be bent by moods, ignored by silence, or shaken by uncertainty. He doesn't need to fight to be heard, because he became someone who speaks without saying much. If any of that landed, even just a sentence, comment, I'm reclaiming it. That's your first line in the sand. She goes silent after an argument, and instantly, your chest tightens. You start wondering what you did wrong. You scan every message, every word, every moment. Then, the panic sets in. So you send a long text, maybe two. You call once, then again. You say things like, I just want to understand, or please don't shut me out. Sounds noble, right? But what you just did wasn't communication. It was reactivity. And reactivity kills respect. See, power doesn't speak first. It watches. True power isn't in how fast you respond. It's in how long you can wait without losing yourself. Most men get this backwards. They think if they don't respond, they're a loser. But the truth is, the moment you react to her silence with panic, you've already lost something more valuable. Your center. Let's break this down. A woman pulls back, maybe after a fight, maybe no reason at all. Most men fill the space. They explain, apologize, beg, joke, compliment, anything to soften the silence. But here's the rule. Whoever breaks first loses the frame, and the frame is where the power sits. If you fold under tension, you send one message loud and clear, even if you don't say it. My mood depends on your mood. That's not love. That's dependency dressed as affection. Now let me tell you what high-value men do instead. They pause. They breathe. They stay silent. Not as a game, but as a signal. Because when you hold your stillness in the storm, you communicate something deeper than words ever could. I don't need you to act right for me to feel right. And that is unshakable energy. Now take this outside relationships. Imagine you're in a meeting. A colleague interrupts you twice. Do you speak louder? Do you cut back? Do you defend your point immediately? No. You pause. You hold the silence like a sword. You let discomfort settle. Then when you do speak, it's slow, sharp, intentional. People listen, because calmness creates contrast. Power lives in the contrast, not volume, not speed, not emotional overflow, just stillness. Here's a shift you can apply today. Next time she pulls back emotionally, do not fill the silence, do not chase the energy, do not prove your value. Instead, observe. Let her feel the absence of your noise. Let her wonder what you're thinking. Then, if you speak, use one sentence. Calm, clean, no pleading. Because a man who doesn't react becomes a man no one can control. If this resonates, write, I hold the frame. Because from now on, that's your default. You ever feel like no matter how much you give, how kind you are, how loyal, available, emotionally generous you are, it somehow still gets interpreted as weakness? You're not imagining it. You're just losing the frame. See, people, especially women, don't respond to facts. They respond to the story they've already written about you. You might be thoughtful, consistent, solid. But if the frame she's built around you is trying too hard, then even your confidence starts to look like insecurity. Even your gifts look like guilt. That's the invisible war most men don't even realize they're in. And here's what Machiavelli warned. Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. Translation: it's not about what you're doing, it's about how it seems. And unless you shape that frame early, it will shape you. Let me give you an example. Two men walk into a room. One is calm, composed. He says little, observes more than he speaks. He dresses well, not flashy, just deliberate. The other man, he's overly friendly. He jumps to prove value, talks about his job, his car, his recent vacation, always smiling, always affirming. Here's what happens. The first man becomes interesting. The second becomes visible, but forgettable. Why? Because one creates perception, the other chases it. Now apply this to relationships. You're dating someone. You keep giving. You're always available. You respond fast. You compliment, affirm, adjust, compromise. But what you don't realize is, the more energy you pour out, the more she sees it as leverage, not love. Now reverse it. You slow down. You speak less. You only respond when it's necessary. You withdraw when energy shifts. You control your exposure. Suddenly, she starts assigning you traits you never had to announce. Grounded, mysterious, high value. All because you didn't try to convince. You let her conclude. That's the power of the frame. Because here's the truth. People fill in what you leave blank. And the moment you stop filling in every silence, every assumption, every emotion, you stop being managed. Here's a rule to live by. Frame first, action later. Lead with stillness. Let people wonder, not because you're hiding, but because you're intentional. And when you do reveal, let it feel earned, because the man who doesn't beg to be seen becomes unforgettable. If you've ever felt like your good intentions got misread, drop a comment. New frame, new me, because perception is yours to shape now. You don't need to say more. You need to say less, with more meaning. That's the difference between noise and presence. Most men believe if they say the right words, they'll finally be understood. If they explain enough, they'll finally earn trust. If they share their feelings fast and fully, they'll finally be loved properly. But here's the twist. Over-communication isn't intimacy. It's insecurity in disguise. Let me tell you a story. There was a guy I coached, smart, successful, genuine. Every time he met a woman he liked, he'd open up immediately. Text paragraphs, voice notes, explaining where he stood emotionally, what he wanted long-term, what he feared, what he expected. He thought he was building connection, but all he was doing was overexposing his depth. And depth, when dumped too soon, doesn't impress. It overwhelms. It doesn't build trust. It burns the mystery that attraction feeds on. See, attraction is like a fire. If you dump too much wood too fast, you kill the flame. But if you feed it slowly, it grows stronger, wilder, more alive. The most magnetic men aren't hiding anything. They're just not leaking everything. They choose timing. They speak with pauses. They don't compete in conversations. They wait. And when they speak, it lands. Because every word they say carries weight. Now apply this to a work setting. Everyone's debating a strategy. People talk fast over each other, trying to sound smart. But there's one guy who listens. He leans back, arms crossed, calm. When he speaks, everyone goes quiet. Not because he's loud, but because he only speaks when it counts. That's what makes him unforgettable. That's what gives him aura. Here's the practice for you. Start speaking less than you know. Reveal less than you feel. Move less than you're capable of. Let people lean in instead of pushing out. Because silence doesn't mean nothing to say. It means everything is being chosen carefully. And in a world full of men who overshare, overtalk, overexplain, the man who speaks with restraint stands out like thunder in a room full of echoes. So today, try this. When you're tempted to explain, pause. When you feel the urge to fill a silence, let it breathe. When someone asks what you think, deliver it in one sharp sentence. If you do that, people won't just hear you, they'll feel you. Drop a comment if you're in. Less noise, more presence. What if I told you that the more you try to prove your worth, the less worthy you appear? It's brutal, but it's true. Because worth, real, grounded, magnetic worth, can't be proven through performance. It can only be felt through presence. Let me explain. You ever meet someone who doesn't say much, but the whole room notices when they walk in? They're not louder. They're not flashier. They're just felt. That's aura. And aura isn't something you build by working harder. It's something you generate by stopping the habits that leak your power. Habits like explaining yourself before being questioned, giving gifts to fix tension, talking to fill every silence, showing off to get attention, chasing validation through kindness. You don't create respect by proving you're a nice guy. You create respect by being a man who respects himself. There's a difference. Let me give you a contrast. Guy A is kind, always available, generous, answers immediately, plans everything, posts how loyal and devoted he is. Guy B is calm, focused, present, but rarely reachable. Speaks clearly but not constantly, doesn't chase, doesn't beg, Guess which one triggers curiosity? Guess which one women want to earn access to? Guy B. Not because he's colder, but because he's centered. Because when your energy isn't scattered in proving, chasing, fixing, it concentrates. And that concentration becomes your aura. Here's how you start building it. Stop over-explaining. Say your piece. Then pause. Drop the need to be liked. Focus on being aligned. Let silence do some of the talking. It often says more than your words ever could. Hold your posture, physically and emotionally. Protect your energy like it's currency, because it is. And one more thing. Aura isn't fake mystery. It's not pretending you're busy. It's not calculated coolness. It's the natural glow that appears when you stop outsourcing your identity. Because the moment you stop proving you're worthy, you become worthy by default. That's what changes the way people look at you, and especially the way women look at you. So here's today's shift. Next time you walk into a room, don't try to be noticed. Just own your presence. You're not there to perform. You're there to observe, to command quietly, to move like someone who knows exactly who he is, even if no one else in the room does yet. If you're done chasing validation, type this below. Aura on. Because from now on, you don't prove. You embody. She says, do what you want. You do. Then she goes cold, distant, irritable, aloof. You think, wait, I thought I was doing what she asked. And here's what most men miss. She didn't mean the words, she meant the emotion behind them. Because women, like all humans, wear emotional masks. But the difference? Men react to the mask, while high-value men decode it. Let's go deeper. Sometimes her mask looks like sarcasm. Sometimes it's independence. Sometimes coldness, detachment, control. But underneath, there's almost always something else. A fear of rejection, a need to be seen, a deep emotional wound she's protecting, even from herself. And if you only react to what she shows, you'll never understand what she feels. Let me give you a real moment. You're with a woman. She's tense. She throws a comment like, "Whatever, I don't care anymore. Do what you want." Most guys react. They defend themselves, or they snap back, or they start over-explaining. But the strategic man, he pauses, he mirrors, he hears the fear, not just the phrase. He responds with calm understanding. He says, "Sounds like that really got to you." Or he stays silent, just present. And in that stillness, something happens. Her mask starts to slip, because what she really wanted wasn't obedience. It was emotional safety. Let's take this outside relationships. You're at a cafe. The barista is cold, no eye contact, rushed tone. Average guy gets annoyed, reacts. High-value man smiles slightly, says, "Rough morning?" And just like that, the wall cracks. Because most coldness isn't aimed at you. It's carried by them. Same with that uncle who always criticizes your career at family dinners. Turns out, he lost his job months ago, never told anyone. That pride, it wasn't confidence, it was a shield. So here's the play. Don't fight pride. Don't fix pain. Mirror it. Let her feel seen, not exposed. Ask subtle questions. Offer quiet presence. Watch her guard drop, not because you cracked it, but because you didn't try to. And if it doesn't drop, if the mask stays glued, withdraw, not with drama, not with punishment, just with clarity. Because when you see through armor and still stay grounded, you don't just become attractive, you become magnetic, not just to women, but to every room you walk into. If you've ever been confused by mixed signals, only to realize later it wasn't about you, drop this below. I see clearly now. Because from now on, you read deeper, you react less, and you understand more. Predictability is comforting. But it's also dangerous. Not to you, to attraction. See, the moment she can fully predict you, how you'll text, how you'll feel, how you'll react, the game changes. You're no longer a challenge. You're a schedule. And you don't fall in love with schedules. You fall in love with possibility. Let me explain. In the early stages, you text first. You compliment. You're open about your feelings. You check in daily. You explain every silence so she doesn't feel ignored. You think you're being emotionally available. And at first she loves it. But slowly, she stops texting first. She takes longer to reply. Then you feel her pulling back. So you try harder. More compliments. More check-ins. More energy. But here's what really happened. You became too easy to decode. And what's fully decoded gets managed. Because when a woman knows exactly how you'll respond, she loses the one thing that fuels deep attraction: curiosity. Let's go deeper. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." That's not about being fake. It's about being selective. You don't owe the world a full blueprint of your soul in the first week. You don't owe every woman you date total access to your thoughts. What you owe is clarity inside yourself. And clarity doesn't mean exposure. It means choosing what stays in the vault and what gets revealed. Because the man who can't be fully read can't be managed. Now imagine this. You're at a dinner. Everyone's talking, performing, telling stories. You sit back, you listen, you say little. But when you do speak, it's intentional, sharp, brief. The whole table goes quiet. Why? Because your silence made them lean in. That's the rule. Say less than you know. Reveal less than you feel. Move less than you're capable of. Let your mystery do the heavy lifting, not to play games, but to hold gravity. Because mystery isn't coldness, it's selective depth. And the more unpredictable your energy becomes, the more people respect your presence. She won't know what you'll say next, and that tension, that anticipation, that's what makes her feel alive. Not chaos, not confusion, just unspoken power. So here's today's challenge. Audit your behavior. Where have you become too predictable? Where do you always show your cards too early? Where do you explain before being asked? Start pulling that energy back, not to punish, but to restore presence. Because when you move like a mystery, you don't just attract, you haunt. If you're ready to drop predictability and build your presence in silence, comment, mystery mode on. Let the decoding end here. You want to be respected? Then build a mind that commands it. Not a body, not a bank account, not a persona you wear on dates. A mind, clear, grounded, untouchable. Because in the end, people don't follow looks. They follow energy. And energy is born from how you think, not just how you act. Let me tell you the truth. Most men live on emotional autopilot. They react to her mood. They mirror society's expectations. They wake up each day hoping to feel better, without ever thinking clearer. But respect, real respect, starts in the mindset you choose before the world speaks. Let me give you an example. You're in a relationship. She pulls back emotionally. The average man spirals. What did I do wrong? Is she losing interest? I need to fix this fast. But the high-value man? He pauses and thinks, her behavior is information, not a command. He doesn't chase, he doesn't lecture, he doesn't assume, he observes, he evaluates, he adapts without abandoning his principles, because his mind is not wired to react. It's trained to respond. Now step outside the relationship. You're at work. Your idea gets dismissed in a meeting. The reactive man either stays silent and resents it, or overreacts and loses credibility. But the man with a powerful mind, he waits. He listens. And when he speaks, he delivers a question so sharp, so surgical, it forces clarity into the room. Because his words aren't just noise, they're weapons. That's what self-mastery looks like. And no woman, no man, no crowd can ignore that kind of mental gravity. So how do you build it? Guard your inputs. What are you consuming daily? Fear, trash, distraction, or insight? Interrupt your loops. When your mind spirals, ask, is this a fact or just a fear? Define your identity. Are you a man who reacts to life or a man who designs it? Use silence strategically. Pause before responding. Let people feel you're thinking before you're talking. Sharpen your discernment. Not every fight deserves your sword. Some things deserve your stillness. Because the man who trains his mind to stay centered in chaos, in conflict, in desire, becomes the man everyone looks toward when things fall apart. He doesn't crumble. He doesn't chase. He doesn't conform. He just knows. And that kind of certainty, it's magnetic. It's unforgettable. It's the foundation of a king. If you're done reacting and ready to rebuild the way you think, comment, clarity first, because respect starts in silence and dominance begins in the mind. You're not here to earn love. You're here to embody it. Let that sink in. Because most men, they perform for connection. They confuse acts of love with the need to be loved. So they become actors, saying what's safe, hiding what's real, giving not from overflow, but from fear. Fear she'll leave. Fear they won't be enough. Fear that being fully themselves won't be accepted. But love built on performance always ends in resentment. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who was everything she said she wanted. He listened, he cooked, he supported. He remembered birthdays, random cravings, and the name of her childhood cat. He was perfect, on paper, but deep down, he was anxious every day, overthinking every message, planning surprises to keep it interesting, monitoring her tone, her mood, her silence. Until one day, she left, said she needed space. He was devastated, not just by the breakup, but by the realization he never actually loved as himself. He loved as a performance. And here's the truth he missed. You can't build a kingdom on conditional presence. The new masculine standard is this. You love because it's who you are. Not because you're trying to make someone stay. You give, not to earn. You care, not to convince. You speak, not to soften rejection, but to stand in truth. And you let people leave if your truth is too heavy for them. That's not cold. That's clear. That's a man whose love is no longer for sale. Because when your value is no longer defined by who stays, you become unstoppable. Women feel it. Men respect it. And most of all, you trust it. So if you've ever twisted yourself to be the right one, let this be the moment you stop, the moment you unmask, the moment you return to your own gravity. Here's the new rule. No more loving to be chosen, only loving from alignment. Because when you're not chasing love, love starts chasing you. If you're done performing in relationships, drop this below. Aligned or nothing. Let that be your new filter. Let that be your new standard. You were never broken. You were just wired wrong. Taught to perform instead of protect your peace. Taught to give endlessly, but never taught to hold yourself. Taught to chase love instead of build presence. And if you've made it here, to this final part, you already know you're not like most men, because most men stop at confusion. They settle in frustration. They never question the pattern. But you did. You faced the mirror. You chose clarity over comfort. And that choice? That's where transformation begins. Let's be real. You weren't trained to lead with presence. You were trained to lead with performance. You weren't raised to hold your frame. You were raised to keep the peace. And peacekeeping is just war avoidance in disguise. But now, that ends. Because every man who rises to true power internal, emotional, relational, doesn't get there by accident. He gets there by rewiring, by unlearning the noise, by deciding, I won't chase, I won't perform, I won't shrink to be loved. From this moment forward, you pause instead of panic. You observe instead of overreact. You say less, but say it like you mean it. You love without conditions and leave without drama. You create emotional safety, but never at the cost of self-respect. This is presence. This is sovereignty. This is the new masculine standard, and it's rare. Because it doesn't need permission to exist. It doesn't need validation to feel alive. It doesn't need to be loud to be heard. Let me leave you with this. Most heartbreak, it doesn't come from rejection. It comes from being accepted for someone you're not. So stop shape-shifting. Stop morphing to fit expectations. Stop seeking your reflection in someone else's eyes. You already have the blueprint. It's called alignment. So build from it. Speak from it. Love from it. And when you do, you'll stop wondering where you stand, because you'll finally be standing in yourself. If this final truth landed, type this below. I'm building different now. Let the old wiring fall away. Let your presence become the proof.